Hey, everybody, have you seen that polling data that shows that people who were hysterical about COVID and adopted all kinds of irrational approaches to it, pretty much without question, also without question, more or less went along with everything they've been told about Ukraine and the official regime, CIA-approved narrative about Ukraine? Now, how about that? Isn't that a little bit odd that one would match up so closely with the other when the two issues seem to have nothing to do with each other? Except one thing. In each case, the American establishment laid down a narrative and said, this is the story. And in each case, this particular segment of Americans simply complied. And what we're seeing very often these days in America is a pattern whereby when the powerful and influential say something and indicate what the officially approved opinion is, we have a huge percentage of Americans who are all ready to comply. They would die 1,000 deaths before dissenting from the American establishment. The American establishment is about the least impressive group of people you can imagine, and yet a huge chunk of Americans trust them and think, you know, I really think Mitt Romney and John Kerry and Hillary Clinton are just looking out for what's best for me. I don't know how you come to that conclusion, looking at the track record of these people. And half of these people, almost the entire establishment, supported the war in Iraq 20 years ago that led to untold death and destruction. And yet we have these people who are naively confident in them, who think, oh, well, oops, everybody makes mistakes. This does nothing to make them question that maybe these people might not have my best interests at heart. If you were to look at a situation in which people made a decision that led to death and destruction for no good reason, you would think that would make you say, maybe I ought to take what they say with a grain of salt from now on. And yet no, in this case. And so what's happening here? Well, my old friend Jeff Lescovar says that what's happening is that a lot of people simply cannot inhabit a universe in which they are not repeating what the powerful want them to say. They would die 1,000 deaths before disagreeing with what the powerful and influential want them to think. And I'm talking about powerful and influential people not only in politics, but in music, entertainment, academia, CEOs of major corporations. When they see all these powerful people adopting an opinion, they're going to adopt it, no questions asked. And if you went to high school, you're familiar with this phenomenon. I have got to be part of the popular kids club. What else could Ukraine and COVID have in common, if not a willingness to accept what the establishment tells them? Now, you and I probably, dear viewer, are rather more skeptical of what the American establishment has to say because it has a horrendous track record and because this has to be the most ignorant ruling class in the history of the world. So if you want to get some kind of sensible overview of what's going on in Ukraine, forget about it in the American media. You're going to get the CIA version of events. You're going to get a version of events in which history started 5 minutes ago, which is how it always is for the United States. History started 5 minutes ago, but it didn't start 5 minutes ago. And on the basis of that narrative, we have had members of the American foreign policy establishment doing and saying things so reckless that they could risk the destruction of the entire world. And ladies and gentlemen, it is not a Russian talking point to say that the end of the world would be a bad thing. So therefore, I hereby announce the release of my brand new free ebook, Your Facebook Friends Are Wrong About Ukraine. Go read this. You're not going to read this in the New York Times, but it's what you need to know to be an informed person in an age in which people seem to think we can be cavalier about the destruction of the world. Well, you and I are a little bit more skeptical of that. So check it out at wrongaboutukraine.com.